Something about this room seems really different, but I'm not sure what. 4 months ago, I released a pair of videos attempting to answer one very important question. Is Batman a fascist? My conclusion at the end of that second video was, no, he isn't. Except that video was about the version of Batman from the animated series, a children's cartoon from the 90s. But there are other Batmans out there. Maybe cartoon Batman is chill, but movie Batman is a dick! So, without further ado, let's jump to the version of Batman who redefined the character in the mind of the public. The very first Batman to star in a feature-length, theatrically released film. Adam West! Yeah, the title and the thumbnail were a misdirect. We're talking about the 60s Batman. I mean, we'll talk about the Michael Keaton version later, but the Adam West version came first. Why is he blue? Wait, why is he red? The Batman TV show starring Adam West and Burt Ward ran from 1966 to 1968, featuring 120 episodes. I'm not watching the TV show, even though I probably should, because watching 120 episodes of Adam West Batman sounds like torture. But I will watch the movie, which was released between the first and second seasons of the show. The movie begins with Batman and Robin receiving a call that the owner of a distillery is being attacked on his yacht. They respond in their helicopter, and right away we're shown a very odd feature of this continuity that I don't think any other version of Batman features. Batman has to coordinate with the airport. Like, normally Batman's fighter jet is stored somewhere privately and he just flies it through Gotham and no one really cares. But in this movie, the Batcopter is stored at the airport. Batman has to call ahead and ask airport workers to ready it before he can take off, and communicates with air traffic control as he flies. Which makes sense! You can't just fly aircraft through a city near an airport. If you don't talk to air traffic control, you're gonna cause a Breaking Bad Season 2 Episode 13. Batman flies over the city, getting cheers from scantily clad women and a salute from police officers. One man says, "Gives a feller a good feeling to know they're up there, doing their job." As the helicopter approaches the boat disappears, and then Batman is attacked by a rubber shark. He defeats it with the iconic bat-repellent shark spray, then the shark explodes because Penguin fed it TNT. This movie is kinda dumb, and honestly, it would be better if it was even dumber. Batman and Robin go back to the police station, where they respond to reporters at a press conference. One of the reporters, a Russian woman named Kitka, asks if they're like Wild West outlaws, and Gordon explains that they're fully deputized agents of the law. Robin says, "Support your police is our message." Yeah, this movie came out in the 60s, so my message is fuck that. Still, it's interesting that in this movie, Batman and Robin are not vigilantes. They're public figures and civil servants. It said that the animated series Batman was essentially supported by the government, but this version, he's officially recognized as a member of law enforcement. He has the full official backing of the state. And isn't that kind of messed up? Like, this is realistically how Batman would have to work in real life, but where's the accountability? The police should not deputize mass vigilantes and give them the authority to fight crime how they see fit, IMO. But in this movie, it's fine. Not only are Batman and Robin fully morally upstanding, so are the police. Batman stories are usually fairly pro-police, but you know, there's usually like a cop who is an asshole, or a squad that's a bit eager to kill Batman. It is shocking to see a character turn to the camera and say, "Support 1960s American policemen, because they are good." By the way, Kitka is actually Catwoman in disguise, and I don't know why. Like, she uses her fake identity as part of the bad guy's scheme later in the movie, but they haven't thought of that plan yet. After the press conference, Batman realizes that the attack was pretty fishy, which means that the Penguin was behind it because penguins eat fish. Except it happened at sea, and cats start with C, and the shark pulled Batman's leg like a joke, and also this is a riddle, I guess, so anyway, all four of them are working together, Batman guesses. He is 100% correct. He makes deductions like this throughout the film, and it's meant as a joke, but also, I'm gonna bring it up during Fascist Bingo later. The four villains are scheming to attack the UN Security Council, but not for any political reason, just because they're evil and want to take over the world. This film has a very black and white view of morality. The villains are evil because they are evil. And on one hand, this was made to be a family movie, but also, children's media is fully capable of having complex antagonists. Batman the Animated Series did it excellently, and that show was made for children. The bad guys have kidnapped a distiller because he built a dehydration ray. They keep him prisoner for some reason by tricking him into thinking he's still on the boat, and he never tries to leave his cabin and never notices that the boat isn't shaking because he's an idiot. Batman and Robin go back to where the yacht disappeared, and Penguin shoots them with torpedoes from his submarine. They survive because a dolphin sacrifices itself off screen, which is a lame deus ex machina. Also, this scene could have been cut from the movie completely without it affecting the plot at all. Like, this is a movie based off a TV show, and it is really noticeable. It is split into barely connected scenes and contains big cliffhangers to inspire the viewer to turn in for the next week's episode, except it's a movie, so every cliffhanger is resolved immediately by a fucking dolphin saving Batman off screen. The point is, this movie isn't very good. Batman and Robin call a naval admiral, who of course loves them, and tells them that he sold a military submarine to a man named P.N. Gwyn. Penguin used his villain name when he bought a submarine because he's an idiot. Also, this submarine is armed with nuclear missiles. They're specifically referred to as Polaris missiles, which are a type of nuclear weapon. And this fucker sold them to P.N. Gwyn. This admiral is lethally incompetent and must be removed from power immediately. In real life, this would be one of the biggest scandals in American military history. Hell, why did the villains do their kidnapping scheme later? They have a nuclear missile-armed submarine parked outside a major American city. Also, said submarine was heavily remodeled to resemble a penguin because, you know, you gotta stay on theme. The Riddler fires a missile and uses it to skywrite a riddle. The missile is stock footage and very clearly does not turn to write letters. The riddle tells Batman that the Penguin, Riddler, Joker, and Catwoman have united for an evil scheme. And like, he already figured that out from the last riddle. Why does this scene exist? Before the villains do their main plan, they decide to kill Batman. And to lure Batman into a trap, they decide to kidnap Bruce Wayne. And to kidnap Bruce Wayne, they have Catwoman approach him in her Kitka disguise. They refer to Bruce as being the millionaire head of the Wayne Foundation, by the way, meaning that Batman is not a billionaire CEO in this continuity. He's still a Nepo baby, but he isn't as rich and doesn't run a company, which is something. Catwoman pretends to have received a threatening letter from the Riddler, who she calls a bourgeoisie criminal who preys upon the workers. Riddler is not bourgeoisie, but then again, I don't think Catwoman knows what communism is, because, you know, it's the 60s and no one did. Also, she calls Batman a Cossack, and that is an ethnic group, which I don't think Batman belongs to. The point is, Catwoman is bad at being Russian. On their date, Bruce calls the curtain separating the US and USSR foolish, and says he wishes they could contrive a way of getting more deeply involved with each other. This is meant to be foreplay, but screw it, I'll take it as evidence that Batman isn't fond of the Cold War. The pair are kidnapped and taken back to the bad guy base. Batman gets pissed that they would hurt Kitka and fights his way to freedom. During the fight, he punches a goon onto a spring, which throws him out a window into the ocean, and then he explodes for some reason. That man is dead. Adam West Batman just killed a man. The bad guys test out their dehydration gun on some goons, it turns them into dust, and they can be revived by spraying water on them. Sure, why not? Batman and Robin go back to the bar where Batman was held captive. Robin questions why countless bystanders who would have seen the bad guys didn't call the cops. Batman says that it's a low neighborhood full of rum pots, used to the curious sights of their alcoholic delusions. Robin does another PSA moment and says that alcohol is bad, kids, so bad that he would rather die than be drunk. Batman goes in and finds a bomb. He carries it out of the bar and throws it into the ocean right before it explodes. Robin says he is surprised that Batman would risk his life for that riffraff in the bar. What the fuck? Hey, what the fuck is wrong with Robin? He genuinely thinks Batman should have left a bar full of innocent people for death because they are alcoholics, and he thinks that means they deserve to die. What the fuck is Robin's problem? Batman, to his credit, says that they're human beings who deserve to live. Then Penguin walks up, disguised as the kidnapped distiller. Batman and Robin recognize him immediately. He suggests they take him back to the Batcave so they can scan his eyes and see if he's actually the Penguin. Batman and Robin follow his advice and take him back to the Batcave because they are idiots. After being brought to the Batcave, Penguin asks for a glass of water so he can use it to revive his dehydrated goons. He accidentally hits an easily hit switch, which switches the water from normal water to heavy water from the Batcave's nuclear pile. Oh boy, where to begin? First off, Batman has a nuclear reactor in his basement. He should not have that. That is highly illegal for good reason. We don't want Batman doing a fucking Chernobyl because his homemade nuclear reactor wasn't up to code. Second, this is an OSHA violation. Deuterium oxide, more commonly called heavy water, is a version of water containing deuterium, which is hydrogen with an extra neutron. Based on some cursory Googling, it's generally fine to drink a small amount, but large amounts can be toxic. This should not come out of the same tap as regular drinking water. And the lever to switch it from normal tap water to waste from your illegal nuclear reactor shouldn't be this easily to accidentally hit. The heavy water revives the dehydrated goons. When Batman and Robin punch them, they're converted into antimatter somehow, causing them to explode. I didn't know it was so easy to create antimatter out of matter. Also, Batman just killed a man. Again. This Batman kills a lot of people. Like, we give the other Batman shit for being murderers, but this Batman does it constantly. It's just, by accident, because he's incompetent. The dynamic duo let Penguin knock them out and steal the Batmobile so they can follow him when he does his evil scheme. What if, instead of driving away, Penguin did a U-turn and ran them over? What if he just ran them over? What if the movie ended with the Penguin running Batman and Robin over with a car? While the pair are tracking Penguin, Riddler shoots them down with a nuclear missile. They survive. The bad guys go to the UN Security Council, the United World Security Council, which consists of representatives from the UK, Spain, US, Israel, France, Nigeria, Japan, West Germany, and the USSR. All of the delegates are angrily arguing about some undescribed crisis. The bad guys dehydrate and kidnap the delegates, and they turn into different colors for some reason. The bad guys take them back to their sub and decide to ransom each delegate for $1 billion! Batman and Robin go to the sub and fight a bunch of goons. During the fight, Catwoman trips and her mask falls off, causing Batman to realize she's actually Kitka. Or I guess that Kitka is actually Catwoman. Anyway, the point is, Batman is sad, and to be fair, Adam West actually does a good job showing his emotion. After the bad guys are defeated, the distiller dude, who is still being held prisoner for some fucking reason, they had to move him from the bar to the sub even though he never serves any purpose in their schemes. And the point is, he stumbles in, and he breaks the vials of delegate dust, and sneezes, mixing them all up. Batman and Robin take the dust back to the Batcave to separate it with a centrifuge. Infamous war criminal Lyndon B. Johnson calls to wish them luck. As they are separating the delegates, Robin suggests tampering with their brains to improve them. What the fuck, Robin? Seriously, I think Burt Ward's Robin might be evil. That is a disturbing thing to want to do. Batman says it isn't their place to tamper with the laws of nature. They restore the delegates using soft water so they don't explode this time. The delegates appear normal and go back to arguing, except they argue in the wrong languages. Batman says, "Who knows, maybe this strange mixing of the minds could be the greatest service ever performed for humanity," before sneaking away quietly to avoid the consequences of his actions. So, let's talk about the implications. Imagine you wake up one morning and your mind is not your own. You look in the mirror and you don't recognize your face. Your family tries to talk to you, but you can't understand anything they're saying. You have memories, contradictory memories of half a dozen different childhoods. There are pieces of your past that are missing, taken by other men, that you will never be able to remember. You feel your personality changing. Is that because of the trauma you've been through? Or because the pieces of your brain that made you you are now gone? You start to wonder, who am I? You think about your faith. If there's a heaven, will you be let in? What does it mean for a human soul if it can be torn apart and stitched together like this? And as you are pondering these deep, existential questions, the mayor from Family Guy is standing next to you, talking about how awesome it is that this has happened to you. The point is this ending is horrific. Anyway, it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Fascist Bingo. In case you started this miniseries with part 3 for some ungodly reason, this is the part of the video where I test this Batman against the definitions of fascism laid out by Robert Paxton and Umberto Eco in Anatomy of Fascism and Her Fascism, respectively. Alan Moore's version of Batman and the animated series version of Batman were both deemed to not be fascist by any metric. But what about the Adam West version? Let's start with the Anatomy of Fascism. The sense of overwhelming crisis beyond the reach of any traditional solutions actually doesn't apply here, even though it does for most of the other versions of Batman. Batman is not a traditional member of law enforcement, but he is a deputized officer of the law who works closely with the government. He's not a vigilante. In addition, the crisis in this film is far less overwhelming than is usual for a superhero story. This is a movie where a relatively traditional solution defeats an ordinary crisis. The primacy of the group, the belief one's group is a victim, dread of the group's decline, the need for closer integration of a pure community, and the right of the chosen people to dominate without restraint all do not apply. The need for authority by natural chiefs, always male, culminating in a national chieftain who is alone capable of incarnating the group's historical destiny, is interesting. Batman is much fonder of traditional authority in this movie, what with telling kids to trust cops and all, and he is a leader who is alone capable of saving the day. Even precise scientific research can only be done by Batman, because Batman is so superior to any other leader. He isn't the official leader of anything, and isn't interested in incarnating a group's historical destiny, but I would argue this is a yellow. The superiority of the leader's instincts over abstract and universal reason kind of applies. Like, Batman solving riddles through his superior instincts is a joke, but I'm counting it because his instincts are superior to abstract and universal reason. And once again, we have a version of Batman who does not believe in the beauty of violence or the efficacy of will. Moving on to Fascism, the cult of tradition, rejection of modernism, action for action's sake, disagreement is treason, pacifism is trafficking with the enemy, contempt for the weak, and selective populism all don't apply. Batman isn't racist or xenophobic, and this film's version of his rogues gallery are just ordinary criminals, so fear of difference doesn't apply. I'm tempted to put appeal to a frustrated middle class because of the hatred of poor alcoholics, but it's Robin who thought all of the people in that bar should have been killed, not Batman. Batman does obsessively come to the conclusion that he is being persecuted by a dangerous conspiracy the moment he is bit by a shark, but the plot exists. Riddler announces that the plot exists. And Batman isn't xenophobic to the point where he gets along great with a Russian reporter and desperately wants to save her. The enemy is cartoonishly weak while still being a serious threat Batman needs to take care of, but I'd argue Batman treats them with the lax hands you'd expect. Pacifism is trafficking with the enemy is another no. Batman arrests Penguin without violence and feels bad about having to fight Catwoman. Nothing in this movie is serious enough for everybody is educated to be a hero to apply. Machismo doesn't apply, what with the PG rating meaning no mention of sexual matters. Anyway, I would argue that terms like Batmobile and Bat-repellent shark spray are not newspeak. There is no limit on critical reasoning, it's just a naming convention that clarifies that these items are owned by Batman. Once again, this version of Batman is definitely not a fascist. So, why am I talking about him? Why is he important to the arc of this video and my discussion of fascism? This version of Batman isn't a fascist, but the world this film takes place in is the type of thing fascists would idolize. A key component of fascism is this nostalgia for the past, this worship of an imagined golden age that never really existed. The thing they're referring to when they say "Make America Great Again," a world where people were nice, where you could leave your door unlocked, everyone went to church and saluted the flag, and black people were shot in the head for drinking from the wrong water fountain. Fascists reject modern advances in civil rights and dream of a return to a simpler, traditional world before all of the degeneracy and moral relativism took over. The world the 60s Batman lives in is this idealized, peaceful society. It's a world where people sleep easy at night because their heroes are looking over them. It's a world where police corruption is unheard of, where trusting the cops is the most moral thing you can do. It is a world that is very, very white. At the same time, it is a world where the lines between good and evil are clear-cut and unquestionable. The villains are childish and silly, yes, but also they're unquestionably villainous, just as Batman is unquestionably good. They do not have motives, they do not have Freudian excuses. They are evil because they are evil. And fortunately, there is a strong man with superior instincts who comes in and handedly defeats all of them. The world shown in the 1960s Batman show is unquestionably black and white in terms of morality. It is a world that is simple. The world it was produced in wasn't. This movie came out during the period of the most intense political strife since the Civil War, an era of mass government violence and repression. But this film shows a view of the past that would later be fantasized about by American fascists, the good old days, before society started going downhill. Remember that interview with Alan Moore I brought up in part 1? How superhero films can be infantile, the idea that millions of adults are watching them because they dream of simpler times and simpler realities? Alan Moore rightfully pointed out that this is often a precursor to fascism. Dreams of simpler times and stronger strongmen, like in this film, are something to be wary of. Of course, the question is, was Alan Moore right? Not about his idea that nostalgia for an imagined past is tied to fascism. I agree with that. Was he right that superhero movies are popular? That Batman in particular is popular because people who watch these movies want to watch movies about a simple, idealistic world? Well, we'll need to watch some other superhero movies before we can answer that question. Fun fact, there was a sequel written for this movie that would have featured Batman fighting Godzilla, yes, like in the Lemon Demon song. And it would have ended with Batman climbing on Godzilla's back and attaching a big bomb that blasted him into orbit. That would have been sick as hell. But it wasn't made. It took another 20 years after this film came out before Batman returned to the theaters. And when that movie came out, the world was a very different place. Batman returned to the big screen in 1989, this time played by Michael Keaton. The film was directed by Tim Burton, and yeah, that isn't surprising, given this film's everything. The film opens with the family walking through Gotham City. It is immediately clear that this version of Gotham is far different from the one we saw in the 60s. It is dark and dirty, filled with smog and people. A man steals a cab from the father, and the next couple of cabs ignore him and drive past. A prostitute attempts to hit on a child. The family walks into a dark alley where a rude homeless man begs for money, growing hostile when they refuse to give him $1. A robber carrying a gun bursts from the shadows and robs the family with the homeless man's help. They bludgeon the father and leave him for dead. It cuts to the two thieves on a rooftop going over their loot. They talk about how a friend of theirs was murdered by the Bat. The Bat threw him off a 5-story building. They describe seeing his body, how it was so mangled that there wasn't any blood left in it. And then the Bat appears. They shoot him, but the bullets don't hurt him. He dangles the thief over a ledge. The thief begs for his life. The Bat spares him, ordering the thief to warn his friends about him. And that was the first 7 minutes of this film. So yeah, this is a bit different from the Adam West version. Instead of this sunny, idealistic world, Gotham is a dark, depressing hellhole filled with crime, homelessness, and prostitution. The people of Gotham are at best apathetic, at worst, deeply malicious. And the version of Batman that exists in this world is a murderer. The first mention of Batman is a description of him brutally murdering another human being. And the thieves might be exaggerating, except nope! I've seen the rest of the movie. Keaton's Batman absolutely would throw a man off a 5-story building. He throws one of Joker's goons to his death in the climax of the movie. It's noteworthy that Batman doesn't actually save anyone in this opening scene. It isn't a scene where Batman swoops in and protects the family, stops the tragedy that defines his life from repeating. No, he shows up afterward because there is evil that must be eradicated. This is a movie where the world is rotten. Society is crumbling into depravity, and seemingly, the only solution to this overwhelming crisis is Batman. A violent, brutal strongman who comes in and kills the bad people. And I don't think I need to explain where this kind of worldview often leads. Actually, fuck it, let's explain where it goes. So this movie came out in 1989. The 80s and early 90s were an era of urban decay and rising crime rates, especially in New York, the main inspiration for Gotham. In 1960, when the US population was 180 million, there were 288,000 violent crimes, including 9,000 murders. A year after this movie came out, in 1990, when the US population was 249 million, there were 1.8 million violent crimes, including 23,000 murders. That's a jump from 160 crimes per 100,000 people to 731 per 100,000 people for those trying to do math in their heads. For context, in 2019, which is the last year this dataset goes to, the rate was 379 crimes per 100,000 people. The 80s were an era of crime, poverty, and drugs, especially in dense urban centers. And we can argue about the causes of those crimes. Personally, I'd point to the systematic disenfranchisement of African American youth and all the lead and gasoline as likely culprits, but the cause doesn't really matter. The point is, crime was high, crack was flooding the streets, and people were scared. This isn't the era where you make Batman dancing the Bat-2C. It's an era where Batman chucks people off buildings because that's what people wanted for their heroes. They wanted Dirty Harry. They wanted the Punisher. They want retaliatory violence against evil so they can feel safe. And in real life, this retaliatory violence came in the form of massive expansions to the carceral state. More cops on the streets, which was inevitably accompanied by more police brutality. Longer prison sentences demanded by mandatory minimums. And all of this was necessary, they said, because of this overwhelming crisis. The thing is, a lot of cops are really, really racist today, and can you imagine how fucking racist the average cop would be if they grew up before the civil rights movement? The tough-on-crime policies of the 80s sure as hell weren't unbiased. Black people consistently, across the country, received far longer prison sentences. For example, crack cocaine, which was heavily associated with poor black people, was given 100 times the prison time as powder cocaine, which was used primarily by rich white people, despite them being the same goddamn drug. 1 in 4 black men born after the 70s was put in prison, and of course, this had a devastating effect on black communities. You know, the government could have invested in black communities, acknowledged that crime inherently comes with systematic poverty that existed primarily as the fault of the white supremacy enforced by the US government for centuries, but also putting millions of people in prison for years and having their children grow up without fathers was easier. Now, this is a video about fascism, and what does this sound like? What does responding to an overwhelming crisis and the fears of the white middle class by expanding government power and using it to crush a minority group sound like? It sounds like the hateful magma from which fascism is birthed, doesn't it? Like, Batman isn't racist in this movie, obviously, but this is the inevitable outcome of these ideas. You say you want to fight crime. You say you want a hero to come in and kill all the bad people, but a lot of the time, those murder-hungry strongmen are fucking racist. Mass incarceration is a form of incredible, horrific violence. And the obvious counter-argument to what I just said is, fuck it, who cares? Incarcerated people are criminals. They deserve it. Except when you have militarized cops who have been given the task of carrying out violence against black people who have committed crimes, they're going to just carrying out random violence against any black person they find. Take the Central Park 5 case, which happened the same year the Tim Burton Batman movie came out. A horrific rape and beating of a white banker happened in Central Park, and the people of New York lost their minds. They were vicious and hungry for blood, and the NYPD was more than happy to satiate their hunger. Cops arrested 5 random black or Hispanic teenagers who had jack shit to do with the rape and threatened or beat them until they confessed. Not that they were the perpetrators, but that they had seen the others commit the crime. Every aspect of their confessions was contradictory. Still, the NYPD used their confessions as the core of their case against the teenagers, and the jury bought it. Well, I mean, the cops had literally no evidence, but after they interrogated that child for a whole day without his parents and threatened to hurt him if he didn't say he witnessed something, he said he witnessed someone else commit a crime, thus he is guilty of that crime because his confession that was retracted was paradoxically both utter horseshit that can't be trusted and also absolute fact. I love the doublethink that the NYPD has told me to engage in. God, this story pisses me off, and I'm brushing past a lot of the specific bullshit details to avoid making this tangent even longer. Oh, by the way, real estate billionaire Donald Trump paid to have full-page newspaper ads taken out demanding the death penalty be brought back specifically so these children could be murdered by the government for the color of their skin, and then the American people made him president. Yay. In a few days, I get to find out if they made him president for a second time. I hope they didn't. I know who my hometown's voting for. They're voting for the fascists because they crave fascism. Like, my point in bringing this up is that when you expand the police and task them with making people feel safe through any means necessary, things like truth and justice stop mattering. What mattered to the 80s NYPD was getting a conviction so that people could go to sleep at night, not actually doing anything to lower the crime rate. The more power you give to the cops, the more Central Park 5S cases you're going to see. And all of this was done to make people safer, to fight against urban decay, but did the police, for example, make Corey Wise of the Central Park 5 safer? When they beat him, when they framed him, and when they kept him in a cage for 13 years, did that make him safe? No, but of course the goal wasn't to make the world a safe place for black children. The crime rates of the 80s eventually fell. Crime rates are actually really low right now, despite what your uncle who goes on racist rants on Facebook says. I don't know why the crime rates fell. Maybe it was getting rid of the lead in gasoline. Maybe it was increased police presence. Maybe it was the natural cycle of drugs falling out of favor. Maybe it was a million other things. I don't know. I'm hesitant to ascribe any specific cause to crime rates because there are so many factors that influence them. But even if crime rates were just as high as they were in the 80s, it still wouldn't justify the abandoning of civil rights or the acceptance of state violence. It wouldn't justify fascism. Alright, this is a video about Batman. Back in the movie, the mayor and district attorney Harvey Dent say that Gotham is synonymous with crime because of mob boss Carl Grissom. Dent vows to take out Grissom and make the city safe for decent people, and uh-oh, that's kinda a bad thing for a DA to say, historically speaking. One of Grissom's gangsters, Jack Napier, watches the TV broadcast and scoffs at it, saying that decent people shouldn't live in Gotham. Grissom finds out Napier is sleeping with his wife and arranges for a corrupt cop to kill him while he's destroying evidence at a chemical plant. Batman shows up, and during his fight with Napier, the gangster is defigured. Napier falls into a vat of chemicals, and strangely, Batman tries to save him. Like most versions of Batman would save the Joker out of a respect for human life and all that, but you know, this is the version of Batman who throws people off buildings and makes all their blood fall out. Maybe he's trying to save Napier because Gordon shouted that he wants him taken alive? I don't know. Anyway, Napier falls into the chemicals, which bleach his skin and make him go crazy. He renames himself the Joker, kills Grissom, seizes control of Gotham's criminal underworld, and starts carrying out random acts of violence. Meanwhile, reporters Alexander Knox and Vicky Vale try to investigate rumors of a mysterious Batman. The police and mayor adamantly refuse to reveal to the public that Batman exists. Vicky starts dating reclusive rich guy Bruce Wayne. Michael Keaton's version of Bruce is really weird. Every scene with him is awkward. Usually Bruce Wayne is himbo, a persona put on to hide Batman's real identity, but I don't think this is an act. I think that it's a really interesting writing choice to portray Batman as being this emotionally stunted weirdo who struggles in social situations. Bruce and Vicky have an awkward date, but still fall for each other. Hey, fun bit of dialogue in this scene. Vicky says that she's drunk and that Bruce is completely sober, and then they have sex. I think Batman just raped a woman. Yikes. Joker throws Gotham into chaos by poisoning cosmetics. This forces television news reporters to appear without makeup. Look how ugly they are! Fortunately, Vicky Vale is pretty without makeup because beauty equals goodness. I feel like, in a word, this movie is about ugliness. It is about this pair of very strange men who don't quite fit into society. The Joker, of course, is monstrous, but this movie really emphasizes that Batman isn't that different. He's this shadowy freak who doesn't know how to exist in normal society. He's a murderer. The Joker wants to spread his weirdness, make Gotham full of the bizarre, but Batman tries to stop him, tries to enforce order and normalcy, even though he is well aware that he does not fit into that normal society. There's a scene where Joker attacks an art museum and holds Vicky hostage. He explains that he's fallen in love with her because of all the grisly corpses she photographed as a war photographer. The Joker defaces all of the paintings in the museum except for Figure with Meat by Francis Bacon, which he likes because, look at it. He explains to Vicky that he sees himself as an artist. He shows her his girlfriend Alicia, who he has scarred to match him. He later mentions that Alicia has killed herself. The Joker tells Vicky that he wants her to be her true self and threatens to disfigure her. Like, Jack Napier was always evil. He was a violent gangster, but he tried to act normal. Getting his face messed up and his skin bleached gave him an excuse to drop the pretenses and embrace being a monster. He sees his crimes, his peeling away of artifice and artificial beauty, as a way to make people reveal who they really are. It's weird considering some of Burton's other films, but this film and its sequels seem to argue that beauty and normalcy are good, while the strange or off-putting are evil. The Joker in this movie and the Penguin in the next one are freaks. They're the people who fall outside of societal norms and are thus monstrous. They're evil. Hell, they were born evil. And to be fair, the protagonist, Batman, is also a freak, but he's an anti-hero. He's a murderer. He's a freak who fights other freaks because there is something deeply wrong with him. The struggle of his character arc is how to balance being enough of a weirdo to be Batman without falling into being like his enemies. Anyway, Batman saves Vicky. He figures out which products kill people and gives the info to her so she can publish it. Later, Bruce goes to tell Vicky his secret identity. The Joker interrupts. Bruce grabs a fire poker and shouts, "You wanna get nuts? Let's get nuts!" The Joker pulls out a gun and asks, "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" Which is a nonsense phrase he always asks people before killing them, except for all the times he doesn't. The Joker shoots Bruce, then just leaves without taking Vicky because he forgot why he showed up. Bruce survives by hiding a metal serving tray under his clothes. This encounter causes Bruce to uncover repressed memories of a man saying the dance with the devil thing before killing his parents. The Joker killed Batman's parents. I really don't like this writing decision. Instead of it being a random mugger and that motivating Batman to fight evil, all evil, this film has his parents' killer be the spooky evil clown that is behind everything. It makes the Joker too special. It makes Batman's backstory less ordinary. Instead of him becoming who he is because of something that could happen to anyone, could have happened to that family at the beginning, Batman is Batman because of this one specific guy who is evil. And, of course, it leads this version of Batman to be motivated by revenge. Let's get to the film's climax. Throughout the film, the mayor constantly insists that everything is fine and that the important thing is ensuring the city's bicentennial celebration goes well. He finally calls the celebration off near the end of the film, only for the Joker to hijack the broadcast and announce he'll host his own parade and give out $20 million. A massive crowd of impoverished people show up and rush to collect the money. And this ties into what I think is a defining element of this movie. It's very cynical. It is not a film that is fond of the people of Gotham, or really humanity as a whole, aside from a few special main characters. In this film, the public as a whole are losers. They're self-centered, rude idiots who almost deserve what they have coming. There's no real sympathy for them, no thought that they would risk their lives for money because they are desperate and willing to try anything just to survive. They go to the parade because they are worthless. They fall for Penguin's bullshit in the next one because they are worthless. There's no love to be had for the people of Gotham. I would actually argue that this is the darkest Batman movie more than the Nolan or Reeves approaches because of this cynicism. The climax of The Dark Knight has the Joker be proven wrong, shown that ordinary people are good deep down. The ending of the Batman has Batman realize he has to change, has to become kinder and less vengeful because that's what Gotham needs. But in the Tim Burton films, what Gotham needs is someone willing to clean up the trash. Before going to the parade to save everyone, Batman stops by the Joker's chemical plant and blows it the fuck up, killing multiple goons. Again, Batman loves murder! Back at the parade, Joker unleashes poison gas on the crowd. Batman takes away the gas balloons with his plane, then Joker shoots the plane down with a big-ass gun! I mean, seriously, look at the fucking gun. That is a big-ass gun. Where the fuck was he hiding that? Joker kidnaps Vicky and drags her to the top of a cathedral because another damsel in distress scene is just what this film needed. Batman shows up and flat out says, "I'm going to kill you. and then he kills him. Because murder and vengeance are things that this Batman loves. So, do you know what Tim Burton's favorite Batman story is? The Killing Joke. They advertise this fact on reprintings of the book. Actually, hold on. I love The Killing Joke. It's my favorite. It's the first comic I've ever loved. Tim Burton was a basic bitch. And people give Zack Snyder shit for not understanding the stories he adapts, as they should. But Tim Burton read the book about why Batman doesn't kill the Joker because he sees himself in the clown, about how he doesn't want it to end with them killing each other, and then he directed a movie where Batman kills the Joker. Technically, Batman doesn't actually kill the Joker on purpose, I don't think. He ties the Joker's leg around a gargoyle to keep him from escaping via helicopter. The gargoyle gets ripped off the roof and drags the Joker to his death. But still, he showed up to kill him and doesn't seem to be upset about the causing Joker's death thing. At the end of the movie, the police acknowledge Batman's existence and that he is a hero. Batman gives them a bat signal to contact him, having gone from urban legend to officially recognized ally of law enforcement. Also, Batman and Vicky get together, and then that relationship gets ended off screen. The second Tim Burton Batman movie begins on Christmas, and you know what that means? Ho, ho, ho! I filmed this 2 days after Halloween! It begins with a baby named Oswald Cobblepot being born. His parents are horrified because he has genetic deformities, specifically syndactyly, which makes his fingers fuse together and isn't actually that rare. 1 in 2,500 people has syndactyly, and it can usually be cured by surgery. I mean, adult Penguin is also short and bald, but that's just because he's played by Danny DeVito, who I'm pretty sure is a human being, legally speaking. The point is, Oswald's parents overreacted. Mobblepop and Pobblepop treat their son like a monster and lock him in a cage, which is just so horrible and likely the cause for his later evil. I thought, while watching this scene. Then newborn Oswald kills and eats the family cat. Okay, I take it back. The baby is a monster. He was, according to this film, born evil. He has the evil gene. Hitler had it, Walt Disney had it, and Oswald has it. And you know, you could do an interesting story about Penguin growing bitter from being shunned by society and abused by his parents, but fuck that! Let's have him be born evil! The Cobblepots decide to kill their baby by tossing the carriage in a stream. It floats through the sewers to the basement of the abandoned Gotham Zoo, where the penguins are just wandering around. Like, I get that they'd be fine during winter, but what do they do during the summer? Anyway, the penguins raise Oswald somehow. He grows up to be an urban legend, the Penguin Man of the Sewers. So, like, is Penguin meant to be a stand-in for Moses? Because the basket floating down the stream thing is similar to Moses' secret origin, and later he returns to kill all of the firstborn children of Gotham, and that's also a Moses thing? I was going to say also he's Jewish, but I don't think he is. His parents have a cross grave, and I'm pretty sure the Harley Quinn show is the only Batman adaptation where Penguin is stated to be Jewish. Which is good, because if this version of Penguin was canonically Jewish, then this movie would be really, really anti-Semitic. Maybe it still is, I don't know. Now here's the fly in the ointment. Penguin might also be a stand-in for Jesus Christ. He was born on Christmas, and do you know how many years later he returns as a prophet? 33! 33 years later, like Jesus. So maybe he's Moses, maybe he's Jesus, or maybe I'm looking into things too deeply. In the present, Penguin watches from the sewers as the people of Gotham light a Christmas tree. The film cuts to a wealthy businessman played by Christopher Walken. His name is Max Schreck. That is not a joke. He's named after the guy who played Nosferatu. Maximum Schreck asks the mayor to give him permits to build a power plant. The mayor says Gotham has an energy surplus and that Maximum Schreck will have to go through the regular committees. Schreck's assistant, Selena Kyle, tries to give a suggestion. Schreck apologizes, saying they haven't housebroken her yet. And I'd just like to take a moment to say, God, isn't Michelle Pfeiffer so ugly in this movie? She has glasses and messy hair. Those glasses make Michelle Pfeiffer, a famously beautiful actress, so unattractive. Now, if she lost the glasses, she would likely suddenly be attractive, but alas, she is just too horrifically ugly with those glasses for anyone to love her. Schreck says that he has enough influence to force a recall of the mayor if he doesn't get his power plant. The mayor counters that Schreck doesn't have an issue or a candidate. Maximum Schreck goes down to give out presents at the tree lighting thingy. Penguin's goons, the Red Triangle Circus, show up and shoot up the crowd. You know, it's weird that Joker's minions are gangsters while Penguins are circus folk. Commissioner Gordon turns on the bat signal. We see Bruce waiting in a dark room, alone, for the signal to come. This is because being Batman is the only thing he has in his life. He is so dedicated to being Batman that when people aren't being gunned down, he just sits in the dark and waits for danger. Batman shows up and takes out the goons using the Batmobile's special weapons, like the patented Super Bat Stilt Walker Tripper or the Bat Suddenly Rotate Around thingamajig. Batman sets a man on fire with a flamethrower and saves Selina by ripping down part of a brick wall because this Batman is fucking yoked! Penguin kidnaps Maximum Shrek and takes him to the abandoned zoo. He says that they're both perceived as monsters, but somehow Shrek is well respected and Penguin is not. He reveals that he knows about all the evil stuff Shrek does, including filling the sewers with carcinogenic waste, because he digs through the liquefied feces that comes from the sewers with his bare hands. Ew. Shrek counters that he shreds all of his documents, then Penguin reveals that he picked up the shreds and pieced them back together. Wait, shouldn't the shreds have been destroyed when they were flushed down the toilet? Penguin also knows that Shrek murdered his business partner because I guess Shrek apparently cut him up and flushed the body down the toilet, one piece at a time. I mean, how else do you get rid of a body? Penguin says he wants to return to society and get the respect and recognition of his basic humanity that he deserves. He wants to find his parents and learn his human name. Shrek agrees to help him. Selina goes home and feeds her cat milk because she is a bad cat owner. Milk gives cats diarrhea. Selina realizes she forgot something at the office and goes back. She then goes through Shrek's computer, which was password locked, and reads all of his secret files. For some reason. She learns that Shrek's power plant is actually going to suck away all of Gotham's electricity and... What? How would that work? How would no one notice that? This evil plan is stupid. Selina tells Shrek that she knows about his evil plan because she is also stupid. He says that curiosity killed the cat because he has read Batman comics and knows that she's about to become Catwoman, I guess. Shrek says the power plant is his legacy, what he leaves behind for his son Chip, and what? He's already super rich and owns half the city. He already has a legacy. Then again, rich people always want to be richer because they're assholes. He kills Selina to silence her. Then some stray cats bite Selina's corpse, causing her to come back from the dead with cat powers. I guess. Selina has a mental breakdown, destroys her apartment, and sews a skin-tight latex cat costume. The mayor gives a speech about the dangers of urban chaos, and an acrobat just casually dances up to him and steals his baby. Penguin saves the baby and becomes beloved by Gotham. He asks the people of Gotham to help him find his parents, so he can try to understand why they did what they felt they had to do to a child who was born a little different. It's because he killed and ate their cat! That's the reason! Batman watches the press conference and says he hopes Penguin finds his parents, but still looks into Penguin's past. Alfred asks why Bruce is so dedicated to proving Penguin isn't what he seems. Batman learns that A, Penguin used to work for Red Triangle, and B, that the circus closed down after he murdered multiple children! Alfred asks if Bruce feels better now that he was proven right, and Batman says, "No, actually, I feel worse." Penguin learns his parents are dead. He tells the reporters that he forgives them, that it's human nature to fear the unusual. Also, secretly, Penguin steals a list of all the firstborn babies in Gotham, which is a surprise tool which will help him later. Catwoman saves a woman from being raped, then yells at her for making it so easy and wanting Batman to save her before backflipping away. So, there are some vague feminist female empowerment themes with Catwoman. She goes from being this meek woman pushed around by her male employer to this confident woman who doesn't take shit from anyone. But also, her transformation is tied with her becoming a sex object, and this scene is the only time she really fights against sexism. I don't really think the themes work that well. Selina returns to work when Shrek is having a meeting with Bruce and says that she has amnesia about what happened the previous day. Shrek believes her because he is a moron. Bruce says that they've met before, even though they met when he was Batman, because he is also a moron. Selina and Bruce start dating. Shrek decides to deal with his mayor problem by making Penguin mayor. Except, Penguin doesn't want to be mayor and has to be talked into it, and also, he's a creepy sewer goblin. He constantly says gross sexual stuff to the female campaign workers and bites a man's nose off after he insults him. Why would you try to make this man mayor? Shrek has to convince Penguin, and Penguin only goes along with it after Shrek says it'll help him reclaim his birthright and get, this is a direct quote by the way, get unlimited poontang. Unlimited poontang! Unlimited poontang! Penguin runs for mayor because he wants unlimited poontang. Sure, why not? Let's have that be our movie plot. It's just, why? Why is this Shrek's plan? I mean, he can't run for mayor because he has negative charisma, but what about his son Chip? He stood up to the Red Triangle Gang when they tried to kidnap his father. Wouldn't it be easier to make this shitty Eric Trump type into a politician than the creepy serial child murderer who eats raw fish? Shrek decides the best way to get Penguin elected is through, I quote, a Reichstag fire. The Red Triangle Gang attack the city so Penguin can run on Gotham's crime problem. In his speech, he rails against the disease that turns Eagle Scouts into crazed clowns and turns happy homemakers into cat women. Wow, Shrek wasn't kidding about this being a Reichstag fire. That is absolutely fascist rhetoric. Grrr, this dangerous modernism is letting women out of the kitchen and coming for your children. The only solution is to give me power. By the way, during the Red Triangle attack, Batman kills a man by attaching a bomb to his chest. And the killing isn't the worst part. The worst part is that face. Look at him. He's having a great time. He loves killing people. Catwoman blows up one of Shrek's stores and gets into a fight with Batman. Catwoman feigns an injury, asking how Batman could hit a woman, then he apologizes. This is a ploy to hit him. She falls from a ledge and Batman saves her. Catwoman hits on him, then she stabs him in the abdomen. Batman punches her off a building, killing her. After coming back from the dead again, Catwoman meets with the Penguin. Penguin calls her the pussy he's been looking for. Wait, does he mean that in a horny way or in a cannibalism way? Because, I mean, you have to be careful around Penguin when he says that he wants to eat pussy, because, you know, he likes eating pussy. Catwoman says she's cold and he offers to warm her up. She kicks him and he smells her foot and asks if she loves his naked sexual charisma. Catwoman says they both hate Batman and should team up to kill him. Penguin explains he is already planning to turn the Batmobile into a hydrogen bomb, somehow, using the blueprints for the Batmobile that he found, I guess? Did Batman flush his blueprints down the toilet? Catwoman says that killing Batman would make him a martyr, and that they need to frame him first. Bruce starts dating Selina and explains Vicky left him because she couldn't reconcile his duality. Selina says sickos don't scare her, and they start making out. Unfortunately, they both get called away for their killing people job. Penguin kidnaps and murders a beauty queen, framing the crime on Batman. Catwoman fights Batman again, giving us great pieces of dialogue like, "Eat floor, it's high in fiber," or, and this one is actually plot relevant, "Mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it. A kiss can be deadlier if you mean it." Penguin hacks the Batmobile and forces it to run over multiple people to turn the public against Batman. Then he tries to fuck Catwoman and murders her when she turns him down. Shrek gives a speech about how people have lost faith in old symbols and are ready for the Penguin, an icon of the future. By the way, behind the scenes detail, I lost some footage and had to re-record this part. That's why my beard is longer. And anyway, it's the middle of November now. And you know what I said earlier about how the people of Gotham would never vote for Penguin, this creepy, rapey criminal guy? I take that back. He is exactly the type of person who would seize power using fascist rhetoric. I absolutely believe that the American people would elect the Penguin. Anyway, during Penguin's speech, Batman swaps out his mic feed for a recording of Penguin admitting to having conned the people of Gotham. Also, Batman scratches a CD like a record, and that's not how CDs work. Instead of cheering for the Penguin like real Americans would, the crowd boos and throws tomatoes. Anyway, Penguin starts blasting. He storms back to his sewer and declares that he is not Oswald. He is the Penguin! He isn't a human being! He's a cold-blooded animal! Bruce runs into Selina at Maximum Shrek's Christmas party, and she tells him she's there to kill Shrek. Bruce says she can't, asking, "Who the hell do you think you are?" Selina laughs and says she doesn't know anymore. They repeat the mistletoe can be deadly, a kiss can be deadlier bit, and realize who each other are. Catwoman asks if they have to fight now. Before Bruce can answer, Penguin bombs his way into the party to kidnap Chip Shrek. Maximum Shrek begs Penguin to spare Chip and kill him instead. Penguin says sure and takes Shrek back to his base. Meanwhile, he sends the Red Triangle Gang to kidnap a bunch of babies. Batman stops them off screen. Penguin switches to a new plan, just blowing up a big part of Gotham via rocket-armed penguins. Batman hacks the signal and gets the penguins to destroy the zoo instead. Batman and Penguin fight, and Penguin accuses Batman of being jealous because he's a genuine freak, while Batman has to wear a mask. Penguin falls to his death after Batman summons bats. Catwoman shows up to kill Shrek. Batman tries to stop her, saying Shrek should go to jail instead. It is a bit hypocritical for him to suddenly be all revenge blackens the soul after he got his revenge, except, to be fair, that didn't make him feel better. He killed the Joker and all of the pain and the loneliness stayed. He doesn't want Catwoman to be like him, go down that path of violence he once did. The scene would work a lot better if he didn't smile as he blew a man up 30 minutes earlier, but you know, he isn't wrong. Catwoman snaps that the law doesn't apply to people like Shrek or to people like her and Batman. Batman pleads, let's just take him to the police. Then we can go home together. He says, Selina, don't you see? We're the same. Split right down the center. He rips off his cowl, and because of how the suit is designed, he now has to replace like half of his costume. Selina says she would love to live with Bruce in his castle, but then she wouldn't be able to live with herself. Maximum Shrek asks, why is Bruce Wayne dressed like Batman? Because every single character in this film is a fucking moron. Also, because Batman has a secret identity, Shrek now has to die for narrative reasons. Shrek shoots Catwoman 4 times, but she shrugs it off. Selina electrocutes herself in Shrek, killing him and burning through her 8th life. Penguin gets up again, then dies immediately without doing anything. Wait, why is his blood green? I mean, it's green because he was born inherently evil because he has a disability, but also, his blood is red in other shots. Does he have 2 different colors of blood? There's a Homestuck reference in here somewhere, but I'm not smart enough to figure it out. Oh shit, and this is me improvising this because I just realized what that joke would be. That Penguin is a cherub, which fits with him being Jesus. It's all connected. Homestuck. Yeah! As Alfred is driving Bruce home, he thinks he sees Selina in an alley, but she isn't there. Her cat is, though. He tells Alfred Merry Christmas, and oh shit, I forgot. Hold on. I forgot to put the Santa hat back on because this is re-recording this shit because I lost the footage. Because I'm a moron. And I don't want to record this bit for a 3rd time just so I can have the Santa hat on. And also, this is the part of the video where I have to get the Santa hat off. Oh, also the camera pans up, revealing Catwoman is still alive. Anyway, guess what time it is? Time for Fascist Bingo! No Santa hat, because fascism doesn't belong at Christmas, I've decided. Anyway, Fascist Bingo. A sense of overwhelming crisis beyond the reach of traditional solutions? Oh, absolutely. The primacy of the group? No. Batman is a loner rather than the champion of a specific ethnic group. That continues to be the most common defense against Batman's fascism. The belief that one's group is a victim, a sentiment that justifies any action without legal or moral limits against its enemies? I'll give a partial for this one. Batman isn't part of a group, but he believes he personally has been victimized and that this victimization justifies any action without legal or moral limits. The dread of the group's decline under the corrosive effects of individualistic liberalism, class conflict, and alien influences? I mean, look at Gotham. Batman definitely thinks society is declining into chaos as a result of modernity. You could also argue that there is some class conflict going on, with the Penguin being an abandoned orphan, grew up in the circus, striking back at the rich and powerful who have taken what he feels he was owed by birth. The need for closer integration of a pure community, by consent if possible, or by exclusionary violence if necessary? This is an interesting one. In these films, there's this consistent theme of evil being the other, being that which doesn't abide by societal standards. There isn't much focus on preserving a pure community, and Batman is often portrayed as being outside of it, but at the same time, there's a focus on keeping people like the Penguin, who are inhuman and different, away through violence. I'll give this one a yellow. The need for authority by natural chiefs, always male, culminating in a national chieftain who is alone capable of incarnating the group's historical destiny? That's another partial. Batman isn't a leader, but he is this male authority figure who is alone capable of saving the day. The superiority of the leader's instincts over abstract and universal reason? I'll give it a partial. There's heavy focus on his superior intellect and decisions. I'm giving Batman a lot of partials this time. I feel like, to step out of the bingo for a moment, this version of Batman is right on the edge. It would not be hard to transform this Batman into a flat-out fascist, but he doesn't go all the way. Honestly, that makes sense, given the themes of the duology. These movies are about Batman being on the edge of good and evil, about him walking two worlds and being unsure if he is a hero or just another freak. Or, I guess from how I'm framing things, another fascist. The beauty of violence? Ding, 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 ding! Goddamn, he loves him some violence. Look at that smile. He thinks this shit is beautiful. The right of the chosen people to dominate others without restraint? Partial, baby! There isn't any mention of a chosen people or Darwinian struggle, but goddamn, he believes in the right of Batman specifically to dominate others without restraint. On to fascism. Cult of tradition? Not really, or at least not from what we see. There's no syncretic mixing of sources, or belief the truth was spelled out once and for all. On the other hand, rejection of modernism is a big thing with this version of Batman. Look at this terrible, amoral modern world that he hates. Action for action's sake? Definitely. Batman resorts to violence as a first and last resort. Disagreement is treason is a no, but holy shit, does fear of difference apply to this version of Batman? Look how scary and vile people who are different are! Appeal to a frustrated middle class? I'm actually going to give this one to Batman. Again, he is a middle class, but I think he's driven by the same ideals. Like in my experience, white middle class petite bourgeoisie from Trump country think every city in the country is like the version of Gotham seen in this film. He isn't middle class, but there's an economic crisis and definitely pressure from lower social groups. Obsession with a plot is interesting because you know what the idea of this ugly guy with the big nose kidnapping all of the babies of the rich white people is reminiscent of? Anti-Semitism. Penguin reminds me of anti-Semitism. The enemy is both strong and weak. Pacifism is trafficking with the enemy? Haha, yeah. This man's life is consumed by permanent warfare. Now, to be fair, he does seem to be learning that that is a bad thing at the end of Returns, but still, he thinks life is lived for struggle. I'd say popular elitism fits. Like, Batman isn't the leader of a group, but this pair of films have this deep-seated contempt for the average people of Gotham. They are so weak as to need and deserve a Batman. Everyone is educated to be a hero? Again, remember him waiting for the bat signal? This is a man who is eager to die in battle. I'm going to give a lukewarm yes to machismo. I mean, there are other versions of Batman who have the weapons and the car, and they didn't mark them down for machismo, but this Batman feels more repressed, you know? Like, for Adam West, it feels like the car is just a car, but for Keaton, it feels like he's transferring all of his pent-up loneliness and complicated feelings about sex into running people over with a big-ass car. I don't know, it's just a vibes thing. Selective populism? I mean, look at the election plot in Returns. The people of Gotham are too foolish and easily manipulated to be allowed to decide their leader. And finally, Newspeak, which continues to be an anticlimax. Wow, that's a lot of fascism, isn't it? Like, this isn't an exact silence. Your mileage will vary on whether or not these traits apply, but I don't think it's a stretch to say this version of Batman has a lot of the same drives as fascists. I don't think he's a fascist, and I think that at the end of Returns, he's walking on the path away from fascism, but still, he got pretty far down that path. Let's go back to that Alan Moore quote again. He talked about infantilization, an urge for simpler times and simpler realities, and I agree that quote could apply to the 1966 Batman movie. But here's my problem with Moore's take. I don't think the urge for simpler realities applies to most superhero films, and it certainly doesn't apply to the Tim Burton Batman movies. This pair of films doesn't feature a simple, nostalgic world to dream about. The world shown in these movies is dog shit. It's a living embodiment of all of the deep-seated fears of 1980s suburbia. And I don't think it's fair to call this Batman a simple, straightforward hero. He is flawed, lonely, and miserable. He is a murderer who at the end of the second one has begun to see the pointlessness of revenge. Now, to be fair, there are reactionary fans who consider this Batman to be a cool, awesome dude who does nothing wrong. But I don't think that is a good reading of the duology. Heavy emphasis is placed on Batman being a miserable outsider who wishes he could be happy. If someone was dreaming of simpler times, I don't think this is the Batman movie they'd love. So I'm left with this odd contradiction, where I do think this movie is relevant for the discussion we're having about America's descent into fascism, but not for any of the reasons Moore dislikes Batman movies. It's a movie born from the fears and anxieties of the 80s, which will be reignited in our modern era, not movies glorifying the great America Trump supporters wish to return to. I do think there was a little bit of a rhetorical trick in that Guardian article, where Moore says superhero stories were simple and made for children in the 60s, superhero movies are popular now. Thus, superhero movies are simple and made for children, which is a sign of infantilization. Except, while both of those premises are true, the conclusion is incorrect. Modern superheroes are very different from Silver Age comics. There is plenty of critique to be had of modern superhero movies. I have spent plenty of time doing so, but the critique that they're just like the stories Alan Moore read as a kid is objectively untrue. The Tim Burton Batman movies aren't drenched in 1960s nostalgia. Hell, they seem to have been made specifically to be as far as possible from the cheery, wacky world of the Adam West Show. But, to be fair, the next Batman director was a fan of wackier stories. Batman Returns didn't actually do so hot financially because it was so dark and weird and violent that it scared the children who watched it. It got the McDonald's toys recalled because of all of the unlimited poontang. And did people see the first one? Returns was more explicit, yes, but it's not like Batman '89 was a kid's movie. Anyway, this backlash led to Tim Burton leaving, and new director Joel Schumacher making the third film, Batman Forever, a lot more goofy and child-friendly. It's so different from a tonal, stylistic, and character perspective that I consider this version of Batman to be a separate character, at least for our discussion of fascism, even though in-universe it is the same Batman, I'm pretty sure. He's played by Val Kilmer now, but Michael Gough and Pat Hingle reprised their roles as Alfred and Gordon respectively. Also, Bruce mentions at one point that his parents were murdered by a supervillain, and that he killed said supervillain in revenge, which means that even if this was a different continuity, a lot of the big important bits happen the same. The film begins with Batman suiting up, with heavy focus on his crotch, ass, and nipple-covered chest. Wait, why does he have nipples? Alfred asks if he can persuade Batman to take a sandwich, and Batman says his famous catchphrase, "I'll get drive-through." I gotta say that is an amazing first line. A lot of people were probably hesitant as they came into this film back in the 90s due to the change in director and lead, and fortunately, with his first words, Val Kilmer's Batman reassures the audience that the Schumacher films will have the exact same tone as the Burton ones. Keaton's Batman was introduced ascending on a pair of criminals, cloaked in shadows, shrugging off bullets in a way that makes you question if he's even human, and this Batman is introduced with a joke about the McDonald's tie-in. I mean, it's practically the same thing. Actually, can you imagine Batman going through a drive-thru? Just, the Batmobile pulls into a drive-thru, and Batman orders a Big Mac, and he sits there and waits for his order to be done. God, that would be weird, although I don't have to question how Batman would pay for it, as we'll see in the next movie. Speaking of weird, look at Gotham. It's this weird, gaudy neon city to contrast with Burton's weird, dirty Gothic city. And I don't actually hate it. Batman shows up to a bank robbery being carried out by Two-Face at the second bank of Gotham. And I know this is a Two-Face staple, but it just occurred to me, who the hell names their bank the second bank? First bank of Insert City here is common, but I've never heard of a second bank. Does anyone watching have a bank in their city called the Second Bank? Because that seems weird to me. Two-Face is introduced with only Harvey face visible. He gives a monologue about luck being the only true justice that actually kind of works as a dramatic moment. Then he turns his face, revealing his pink scars, and yikes, that looks bad! He flips a coin to see if he should kill a security guard, then decides to kill him anyway when the coin says he gets to live. So, why even have the coin then? Also, that makeup they put on Billy D. Williams is really thick. It almost makes him look like Tommy Lee Jones. Batman talks with Commissioner Gordon and Chase Meridian, a psychologist who just moved to Gotham, specializing in abnormal psychology. She says that Two-Face has gone through trauma that created an alternate personality and left him in a world where the rules of right and wrong don't apply. Kinda like Batman. Also, Chase is definitely down to fuck the moment she shows up. Two-Face tries to kill Batman by throwing him and the security guard into a safe filled with boiling acid! Batman escapes. The next scene begins with a radio broadcast calling him Harvey Two-Face, and that isn't his name. The news also talks about how Bruce Wayne is profit sharing at Wayne Enterprises, which is nice, I guess. One of Bruce's employees, Edward Nygma, is obsessed with him. He tries to show Bruce's new invention, which beams a TV signal directly into the human brain. Bruce asks to see the schematics before approving human trials, but Nigma wants an answer now. Bruce, not being an idiot, doesn't approve Neuralink because it just raises too many questions. Bruce is called away by the bat signal, which Chase is using for a booty call. She shows up wearing a low-cut dress and swanky sax music plays as she rubs the nipples on his costume. She also tells him that Two-Face's obsession with his coin can easily be exploited because this movie has a tendency to treat stupidly obvious things as big revelations. Batman turns down her request for a date and gets in the Batmobile, and then, I shit you not, the movie does the Watchmen flamethrower as a euphemism for orgasming joke. Nigma, angry his project was terminated, tests it out on his boss, Cliff Main. And goddamn, Neuralink is lame as hell. It's just a 3D TV, except it gives you brain damage. While testing, Nigma discovers that his Neuralink allows him to drain people's IQ points, becoming smarter in the process, because as we all know, intelligence is a specific physical substance that can be transplanted. Nigma throws Ed Begley Jr. out the window, but the security tape the next morning shows the boss jumping out on his own. This is because draining the IQ of an average intelligence middle manager gave Nigma the skill and knowledge required to create perfectly realistic CGI simulations in a few hours without any equipment in 1995 because he's just so smart, I guess. Nigma decides to become a supervillain and leaves a riddle for Bruce Wayne. I'd explain the riddles, but they're all really simple and the payoff isn't very good. We see news footage of Two-Face's standard origin. Sal Maroni throws acid in his face, except in this retelling, Batman is in court in full costume, and Two-Face is only scarred on one side of his face because he holds up a manila folder because acid that can burn through flesh can't burn through paper, I guess. Bruce goes to Chase and asks her for advice on the riddles. She calls the sender a total wacko because she's really ableist for a psychologist who specializes in people with obsessive disorders. She says that the sender is probably going to try to murder Bruce based on a single letter, which is, a bit of a stretch. She's right, but it's still a stretch. Bruce invites Chase to go on a date to the circus. Two-Face shows up at the circus and says he'll blow it up if he isn't told who Batman is. Bruce shouts that he's Batman, but Two-Face can't hear because of the noise of the crowd. Chase can't hear either, even though Bruce is right next to her. Young acrobat Dick Grayson gets rid of the bomb, but unfortunately, his family is murdered by Two-Face. Dick is taken in by Bruce, which is weird because that is very clearly an adult man. Chris O'Donnell was 25 when this movie came out. Based on dialogue, Dick's probably supposed to be around 17, but he sure doesn't look 17. Dick wants to leave so he can track down and kill Two-Face. Bruce says it won't take the pain away, it'll just make it worse. A few scenes later, Dick finds the Batcave and steals the Batmobile. Batman shows up, and Dick starts slapping him, saying it's his fault his parents are dead. It's like the old meme, but backwards. Dick says the Batman has to help him kill Two-Face. Batman says that his pain won't die with Two-Face. It'll grow. He'll find another enemy, and another, until he wakes up one terrible morning and realizes that revenge has become his entire life, and he won't know why. And although I am vaguely judging these Batmans as different characters, I do think Val Kilmer's Batman works better as a continuation of Michael Keaton's. In the first movie, he was a violent murderer who killed the Joker for revenge. Vicky, the first woman he ever loved, leaves him because he's stuck between two worlds. As a result, he just sits alone in his mansion, waiting for trouble to strike because it's the only purpose he has in his life. And then he meets Selina. He sees a dark reflection of himself. He sees how her need for revenge has destroyed her. He wants to be with her because she's the only person he thinks can relate to him, but she's too far gone. And in this movie, he's trying to be different, trying to solve things without killing. When he meets Dick, someone so similar to himself, he tries to keep him from making the mistakes he and Selina made, tries to save him from the heartbreak and the misery and the nights waiting for the bat signal that plagued him because he was consumed by vengeance. Seeing Dick's parents get gunned down causes Batman to have flashbacks of his own parents being shot and attending their funeral. Heavy emphasis is placed on his father's journal and something he read in it. After this flashback of his parents' death, Bruce mumbles, "I killed them." Chase tells him he has repressed memories. Ooh, what sort of big revelation is going to come from these repressed memories? It'll be satisfying, right? It'll be satisfying, right? Wait, didn't they do the repressed memories of his parents' murder thing in the first one? Anyway, Bruce sees Chase's Batman shrine, and she says that he's fascinating. It's as if he's cursed to pay some great penance. She wonders what crime he could have committed to deserve a life of nightly torture. What an interesting question that I hope gets answered. Enigma decides to become a supervillain named the Riddler. He teams up with Two-Face, promising that if he helps him steal money, he'll tell him who Batman is. Riddler uses their stolen money to fund a company that puts Neuralink 3D TVs in every home in Gotham and drains people's intelligence. Is this supposed to be a TV rots your brain thing? Because if so, that's kinda dumb, because if anything is going to rot your brain, it's this film. Chase and Bruce go to a party being held by Enigma. Bruce is shown a machine that reads your mind. He then steps into the machine that reads your mind. It reads his mind. Two-Face interrupts the party. During his fight with Batman, Batman is buried under rubble and almost killed. Dick pulls him out. Riddler and Two-Face watch the tape of Bruce Wayne's mind and learn that he is pretty much always thinking about bats, meaning that he is Batman. The entire climax of this film happens because Batman went into the machine that reads your mind after being told this is the machine that reads your mind, which allowed the Riddler to read his mind. I don't see any way this problem could have been avoided, honestly. While talking to Alfred, Batman says he's never been in love before, but is now. Fuck you, Vicky and Selina. I'm like, what? You've barely interacted with Chase. I don't buy this romance. Batman goes to Chase's apartment while she is sleeping and they start making out. She stops because she loves someone else. Bruce Wayne! Batman smiles and damn, he normally only smiles like that when he's brutally murdering people with dynamite. Batman decides to retire so he can be with Chase, something that comes out of nowhere. Dick is pissed because he needs Batman's help to kill Two-Face. Batman tells him that if he kills Two-Face, he'll be alone, just like Bruce is. Bruce has one more flashback of Joker murdering his parents. He finally regains all of his memories. We see him at his parents' funeral in what is probably the best shot scene in the entire movie. He runs away and falls into the cave beneath the mansion. He sees a bat and decides to become Batman. Wait, that's it? That's what his repressed memories were about? That he became Batman because he saw an omen of a bat and decided to use its image to strike terror into the hearts of those who did evil? That's standard Batman stuff. Every other Batman knows that they became Batman because they saw a bat and thought it would be a cool symbol. After all of that build-up with the repressed memories, with him saying that he killed his parents, and the focus on the red journal, and Chase saying that being Batman is his penance, this is how the plotline resolves? Wait, why did he think he was Batman then? Did he just think he chose it randomly? And if so, why does realizing there was a reason for his actions change his life so much? Riddler and Two-Face show up to Batman's mansion, which is in the middle of nowhere, disguised as trick-or-treaters because I guess trick-or-treaters go up to the scary mansion in the middle of nowhere. Like, there's a 100-yard walk up to the front door, but I guess all those kids just love doing it. Alfred better give the best fucking candy if the kids are gonna walk all that way. Anyway, the bad guys shoot Bruce in the head. They shoot him in the head. He gets shot in the head. Batman gets shot in the head. He should be dead now because he got shot in the head. Two-Face is about to double-tap Bruce, but Riddler tells him no, and Two-Face listens, for some reason. Instead, they destroy the Batcave and kidnap Chase. Riddler leaves one final mystery. After waking up from, again, being shot in the head, Batman realizes that all 4 riddles contain numbers. 13, 1, 8, and 5. Or, converted to letters, M-A-H-E. Alfred suggests that the second and third riddles were a single number, 18, because Riddler sucks at making riddles in this movie. 18 is an R, meaning that the solution to the big riddle is M-R-E. My god, Riddler is a sentient monster made out of army rations! No, it means mystery, as in mystery, which is what a riddle is. The answer to the mystery is that it's a mystery. And do you know what's another word for mystery? Enigma, meaning that Edward Nygma is the Riddler. And that's just his name. That's on his birth certificate. He didn't name himself Edward Nygma as part of the riddle. Like, all Batman does in the climax of this movie to figure out the mystery is just being like, wait a minute, this guy's name might be a pun, because I guess his parents wanted him to grow up to be a riddle-themed supervillain. And the thing is, Batman already knew that there was a guy out there who hated him and was named Enigma. Why did he need 4 riddles and a bullet to the head to realize that Enigma was the Riddler? And all this information tells him is that Chase is being held captive at Enigma's office, which is such a big twist. Wow, that reshaped the film completely. This is a big problem I have with this film, and honestly, it's why I think that Batman and Robin is a better film. The riddles and the repressed memories both A, don't matter, and B, are big twists where the audience is told something they already knew. Contrast these riddles with the riddles from the Matt Reeves film, where Batman solving the final riddle also lets him know about the horrible terrorist attack that's about to happen. Hell, contrast this film with the first Burton film, where the repressed memory, while still being a writing decision I dislike, radically changed the film. In this one, the repressed memories don't fucking matter. This is because of rewrites. In the original script, Batman would regain memories of him asking his parents to go to the movies the day they died. He would feel guilty about it. That's the penance Chase mentioned. He blames himself for his parents' death. And the Red Book would have revealed that actually, Thomas and Martha already wanted to go to the movies that day, thus getting rid of Batman's guilt. Also, he would have had amnesia from being shot in the head and would have regained his memories after hallucinating a giant Batman, that's Batman with a space, in the Batcave. Now, I don't think this plotline would have been very good, but they kept in 90% of it and just cut the payoff, which makes the entire film flaccid and anticlimactic. Batman goes to save Chase. Dick comes along, now donning a costume and calling himself Robin. Robin fights Two-Face and is about to kill him, then saves him from falling because he'd rather see him in jail. Two-Face pulls out a gun and captures Robin. Riddler forces Batman to choose between letting Chase die or letting Robin die. And one of them is a much better relationship in this film, and it ain't with Robin. They've worked together for 1 minute and kinda hate each other. He was willing to give up being Batman for being Chase, and he tolerates Robin. This isn't a good decision. Batman responds by chucking a batarang at Enigma's Neuralink machine, which causes it to short-circuit and fry his brain. Batman manages to save Robin and Chase. Except, Two-Face is still alive and he has a gun. Batman points out that he's supposed to flip a coin before killing them, something that Two-Face has ignored repeatedly in this movie. Two-Face flips his coin and Batman throws a bunch of coins at him, causing him to slip and fall to his death. Look, he said that Robin couldn't kill Two-Face because that would be revenge, and revenge blackens the soul. He never said that he couldn't kill Two-Face. He has no emotional attachment to this murder, so it's fine. Riddler is left so brain damaged that he thinks he's Batman and is thrown in Arkham, which means he can't give away Batman's secret identity. Batman ends the movie by saying he's both Bruce Wayne and Batman, which is what his arc was about, I guess. I'm putting on the hat to make up for not having it on when I re-recorded the second half of Returns. This movie doesn't take place on Christmas, but the bad guy has a cool freeze ray, so it fits, I guess. Batman and Robin begins, much like the last one, with Batman and Robin suiting up. Just look at those crotches and asses. Just so many shots. Robin says he wants a car because chicks dig the car. Batman quips, "This is why Superman works alone." Alfred shouts, "I'll cancel the pizza!" because Joel Schumacher was consistent in his belief that the most important thing to establish at the start of a film is what Batman will be having for dinner that night. The dynamic duo arrive at a museum where Mr. Freeze is stealing a diamond. He freezes the floor so Batman and Robin click their boots and they turn into ice skates and they play hockey against Freeze's minions using the diamond as a puck. And then Mr. Freeze's tank turns into a rocket and flies into space, and he jumps out and flies away with his robot butterfly wings, and the rocket explodes, and Batman and Robin surf away from the explosion while shouting "Cowabunga" and fight Freeze for the diamond midair. This movie is fucking awesome! It's dumb as hell, but counterpoint, it's dumb as hell! It's a cheesy, campy, idiotic romp that I genuinely think is far better than Batman Forever. Imagine if the Adam West Batman movie was this dumb and stupid. It's awesome. At one point, Mr. Freeze destroys a dinosaur skeleton and shouts, "What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!" And people make fun of this line, but he isn't wrong. The Chicxulub asteroid killed a lot of the dinosaurs via the whole million Hiroshima-sized explosion thing, but it also filled the sky with soot and caused a global freeze that killed the rest of the dinosaurs. During the fight, Batman runs in to fight Freeze and gets frozen, then Robin saves him. Then, Robin runs in to save Freeze and gets frozen, and Batman gets pissed because Robin is reckless and impulsive. This is the film's main interpersonal conflict, and Jesus Christ, it is stupid. How did he act reckless? He did the same shit as you, Bruce. After yelling at Robin for being impulsive, Alfred points out that Bruce doesn't trust anyone. Bruce says he trusts Alfred, but Alfred says he won't be around forever. This is because he's secretly dying. Throughout the film, Bruce has flashbacks of Alfred taking care of him after his parents died, and honestly, they're some of the movie's best scenes. Cut to South America, where we meet Dr. Pamela Isley, and ew, she has glasses! Uma Thurman is so ugly in this movie because she wears glasses, just like how Michelle Pfeiffer was ugly in Batman Returns because the glasses. These things make you ugly! I continue the rest of the video without my glasses for the bit, but I need to see to read my script. Isley is working on crossbreeding plants and snakes to give plants the ability to fight back against the ravages of man, and I don't think that's how crossbreeding works, Isley. Isley walks into an unlocked room right next to the lab, where her boss, Jason Woodrue, is holding a meeting with the leaders of all the countries the US doesn't like. He injects Isley's serum into a serial murderer named Antonio Diego, and instead of turning him into a snake man, it turns him into a super buff super soldier named Bane. Wait, why did he test this serum on a serial killer? That seems like a dumb idea. Now he's just gonna murder people, but strongly. There are actual soldiers you could have tested this on. Isley sees what Woodrue is doing and is horrified. He asks her to join him, but she says she'll turn him in. Shockingly, her evil, corrupt boss murders her by shoving her into chemicals. A few days later, she comes back to life, now a plant lady who is hot because she doesn't wear glasses. She makes out with Woodrue, and he dies because her lips are poison. She monologues that the time has come for the plants to take back the world. She decides to kill Bruce Wayne because reasons. It's mentioned that he funded her research, but that was research to save plants. Bane goes along with her and acts as her goon because he's kinda dumb and just does what he's told. You know, that's Bane's defining trait, right? Being a henchman with the intellect of a bowl of porridge, I'm pretty sure that's how he acted in Nightfall. Isley confronts Bruce at an observatory, and holy shit! That place is sick as hell! 10 out of 10 architecture! The new telescope Bruce is donating can see anywhere around the world using a set of satellite mirrors, and why? Telescope observatories aren't designed to look at the Earth. And maybe it's to see the sky on the other side of the planet. But do you know how real observatories see the sky when it's on the other side of the planet? They wait a few hours, and the planet rotates. Isley storms up to Bruce, calling the cops who tried to stop her fascist. She gives Bruce a proposal for Wayne Industries to stop damaging the environment. Bruce says that her intentions are noble, but that without burning diesel to heat homes, millions would die, and what? Who the fuck heats their home using diesel gasoline? Is that a thing? It isn't a common thing, I don't think. Why are you burning diesel, Batman? Coal and natural gas aren't good for the environment either, but who the fuck burns diesel to keep their house warm? Isley calls millions dying to save the environment acceptable losses, and Bruce says people come first. I really hate this portrayal of environmentalism. There is a dichotomy in this film between the well-being of humanity and the well-being of the environment. Except very often, killing the environment kills humans too. Climate change. It isn't bad primarily because it kills plants, although it does kill a lot of plants. Climate change is bad because it has killed millions of people and is set to kill tens of millions more by the end of the century. Stopping climate change is the type of thing Batman should care about. Although maybe global warming is moot in a world where there are diamond-powered freeze rays. Although in that case, if Poison Ivy wasn't an idiot, she would be stealing Freeze's tech and using it to save the environment instead of the really stupid shit she does coming up. Isley says that the day of reckoning is coming and that no one will protect Bruce when the plants reclaim the planet. A random bystander points out that Batman and Robin exist. Isley, out loud in public, monologues that she is going to murder Batman and Robin because they are the militant protectors of the status quo. Meanwhile, in his abandoned ice cream factory base, Mr. Freeze forces his men to sing along to the Cold Meister song. He's such a campy, stupid villain, it's great. Although, I really hate his costume. It's over-designed and busy, with a stupid helmet, and they forgot the iconic red goggles. We're told Mr. Freeze's iconic backstory, which actually was only introduced a few years before this film, featuring his wife Nora being cryogenically frozen and him being unable to survive outside of the cold. Freeze plans to use his diamond-powered freeze ray to hold Gotham hostage for billions to fund his research to save Nora. You know, he could try selling the diamonds or patenting his revolutionary freeze technology, or hell, just spending the money he used to buy a tank that has a rocket, but this works too, I guess. Batman decides to bait Freeze by auctioning off a diamond at a benefit to save the rainforest. He and Robin attend the auction in costume, and oh boy, this is kinda racist. A gorilla starts dancing, and holy Fallout Boy, Batman, it's actually Uma Thurman, who releases magic pheromones that makes everyone love her. She introduces herself as Poison Ivy and asks who wants to tend her garden. This movie is very horny. Batman and Robin get into a bidding war over Ivy, which Batman wins by paying $7 million using his Bat credit card. Bat credit card? They gave him a Bat credit card? They had the balls to give one of the greatest superheroes of all time a Bat credit card? No, it does not compute. It does not compute. I apologize for that outrage. It was childish and immature. I just get a little peeved when I see one of my childhood icons carrying a Bat credit card! You bastards! I'll kill you! I'll kill all of you! You'll all die! You'll get the gas! Remember my review of Pink Floyd's The Wall? I swear it isn't cringe! Well, watch this show I made called Demo Reel. It's so deep and not at all stupid. Remember how everyone who has ever worked for me calls me a grossly unprofessional idiot? Remember how I forced Linkara and Lindsay Ellis to do a rape scene for my mediocre, self-aggrandizing finale movie, even though they told me they didn't want to? And then now I came back to the show I quit after Demo Reel was terrible. Remember that? I do, because I remember it, so you don't have to. Fuck me, that destroyed my voice. Freeze shows up at the auction and is able to steal the diamonds because he's immune to Ivy's pheromones. Batman and Robin chase after him. They come to a big jump, and Batman forcibly stops Robin's bike, claiming he can't make the jump. Ironically, this causes Robin to slide out and almost die. And he could have made that jump. Like, Mr. Freeze's tank made it. Batman's full of shit. Batman defeats Freeze and he is taken to Arkham, where they put him in a cold beam. Freeze is unable to take 5 steps out of the beam without dying, because I guess the ambient temperature of the room is unaffected by the cold light. When they get back home, Batman and Robin argue about Batman not trusting Robin and over who Ivy loves more. Batman asks Alfred if he's pig-headed. Alfred says yes. Death and Chance stole his parents, but rather than become a victim, he has done everything in his power to control the fates. For what is Batman if not an effort to master the chaos that sweeps our world? An attempt to control death itself. Alfred is the best character in this movie. Anyway, his niece Barbara arrives from England for a visit. She has an American accent because reasons. It's weird she isn't Gordon's daughter, but then again, Gordon's barely a character in this series. Bruce invites her to stay. Turns out she's into motorcycle street races on skyscraper highways against rejected henchmen. A henchman throws a Molotov cocktail to sabotage the race, causing Barbara to slide her bike and almost fall off a cliff. Dick saves her. Back at the mansion, she says that she wants to take Alfred away from his dismal life of servitude. She says that he's subjugated all his life and dreams to someone else. Dick says Alfred is like family to Bruce, and he's actually right, but Barbara doesn't know that. She reveals Alfred is dying, something Bruce has also figured out. Bruce asks Alfred if he's regretted his life, and Alfred says that his only regret is that he was never able to be out there with him. Ivy and Bane break Mr. Freeze out of Arkham. And by break out, I mean they jump hundreds of feet into rocky water. Logically, they should have died. And imagine if they had. Imagine if halfway through this film, all of the villains killed themselves out of stupidity, and the rest of the movie was a serious drama about Batman grieving the death of the man who was essentially his father. Honestly, that would have been a better movie. Ivy and Freeze go to retrieve the diamonds in Nora. Ivy sprays more pheromones on Robin, while Batman is fighting Bane, and Robin tries to beat up Batman, allowing the bad guys to escape. Robin yells that he's going solo. Also, Ivy murders Nora and tells Freeze that Batman did it. Freeze, heartbroken, decides to commit turbo-genocide by freezing the Earth. This would kill essentially all plant life, so naturally, Ivy is totally on board. Alfred gives Barbara a disc for her to pass on to his brother, who is also a brother, and asks her to never look at it. Barbara says, "Fuck your dying wishes, old man," and looks at the disc, giving her info about Batman and Robin. Barbara goes into the Batcave, where an AI clone of Alfred greets her. He turned himself into a sentient AI. Okay, sure, Alfred can do that, I guess. Alfred shows Barbara a costume he made for her, which has built-in heels but doesn't have nipples for some reason. As Flesh Alfred is about to fall into a coma, Bruce says, "I've spent my entire life trying to beat back death. Everything I've done, everything I'm capable of doing, but I can't save you." Alfred replies, "There's no defeat in death, Master Wayne. Victory comes in defending what we know is right while we still live." They say they love each other, and goddamn, this movie isn't very good, but also, this movie is really good sometimes. Ivy turns the bat signal into a Robin signal to summon him to her lair. Batman warns him as he's about to go that he's been injected with pheromones and that Ivy's going to kill him. Robin says Batman just wants Ivy for himself. Batman begs Robin to trust him. Robin goes, seemingly alone, to meet with Ivy. She kisses him and uh-oh, SpaghettiOs, her lips are poison. Except Robin wore rubber lips because he trusts Batman. Wait, how did they know it was her lips specifically? Like, yeah, she kills people by kissing them, but what if that happened because her saliva was poisonous? Then Robin would be dead. Batman and Batgirl show up to save Robin, and she is eaten by one of the Venus flytraps she controls. This is skipping ahead for pacing reasons, but Poison Ivy does survive. But at the end, they put Mr. Freeze in the same cell as her, because I guess the guards at Arkham just love it when inmates kill each other. They're so good at their job. Freeze uses the telescope and satellites to freeze all of Gotham. So, like, millions of people are dead now, right? Batman says, we only have 11 minutes to save them, but that can't be precise. Some people would die sooner, and some would die later, and the sooner ones are definitely dead after 10 minutes. And if the time limit was so tight, then why did they go back to the Batcave to get new costumes and cars? People are dying because Robin had to go pick up his special fanboat snowmobile thingy. Look, I'm sorry your son froze to death, ma'am, but my motorcycle wouldn't work on ice, even though Batgirl's motorcycle works on ice. Robin and Batgirl fight Bane, while Batman defeats Mr. Freeze. At one point, Freeze blows up the observatory, sending Robin and Batgirl falling to their doom, and Batman does nothing to save them. According to the film's ending, this is proof that he trusts Robin now, I guess. TLDR, Batgirl and Robin survive, also they defeat the bad guys. The trio uses the satellites to reflect sunlight, which instantly melts all the ice, saving everyone except for all the people who are definitely dead. Mr. Freeze, dying, tells Batman to go ahead and kill him like he killed his wife. Batman reveals that Ivy was the one who killed Nora. Also, Nora is still alive somehow. Batman says that vengeance is in power. Anyone can take a life, but to give life, that's true power. A power Victor Freeze once had. He asks Freeze to help save Alfred, who conveniently has the same disease as Nora, just less advanced. Freeze gives Batman the cure he keeps inside his robot armor at all times, for some reason, allowing Batman to save Alfred. Jokes aside, if you treat this as the same version of Batman as the one from 1989, it's amazing how much he has grown. He isn't the dreary man alone in his mansion, waiting for the bat signal anymore. He's friendly, he smiles, he has a family. He's merciful, and he has a really cool bat credit card and shoes that turn into ice skates. And also, his costume has nipples on it. Can we talk about the bat nipples, by the way? Because, I swear to God, the bat nipples are relevant to the question, is Batman a fascist? So, like, it's hard to be objective about how Batman fans in general feel about any particular element of any particular adaptation. A lot of this is just based on vibes and how I observed things when I was younger. But when I was a kid, and this was the Nolan trilogy era, Batman was a badass. I'm Batman! Was a badass one-liner that everyone repeated out of context because that was funny, I guess. Batman was this ultimate symbol of masculinity because of the Burton films and later the Nolan films. People liked Batman because he was macho and because the films were dark and gritty and serious. And they despised the Schumacher films because they were sillier and also because of the nipples. People fucking hated the bat nipples. And the silly one-liners about pizza and the ice skates and the bat credit card. But the thing they hated most was the nipples on the costume. And the question is, why? Like, I don't disagree with the take that it was a weird costume choice, and I think the costume looks better without them, but they're barely visible. Like, the focus on them in the opening shot makes it worse, but this isn't like a big defining aspect of the Schumacher Batman. Is it because they're kinda gay? Gay as in however the fuck that word was used in the context of 2000's film discourse, and I'm still not sure what it actually meant. Like, a leather kink costume this is not. but I guess the adding of nipples was enough to start this sort of gay panic among 90s and 2000s comic book fans. I don't know, maybe this is a stretch, but I feel like the Keaton Batman was this incredibly serious, uber-masculine, vaguely reactionary strongman, and the Kilmer and Clooney Batmen weren't. They were less serious, less violent, and contained this hint of male sexuality. And because of that, Batman fans were repulsed. They considered Keaton's replacements to have ruined the cool badass who's so cool that just saying his name is a punchline. He no longer fit this ideal of hyper-masculinity that drew them to the character, and they hated it. Or maybe it's just nipples and I'm looking into things too hard. Speaking of thinking too hard about things, is the Schumacher Batman a fascist? An overwhelming crisis beyond the reach of traditional solutions? I feel like marking this one a yellow. Like there is a crisis, there won't be a movie without it, but it seems less overwhelming in these movies. Even though the city being frozen at the end of And Robin is the biggest, deadliest disaster in the 4 films, it feels like less of a crisis than the Joker poisoning makeup. It doesn't feel in these films like society is as close to collapse as it did under Burton's direction. Primacy of the group? No. Belief one's group is a victim? No. Dread of the group's decline? I mean, you could stretch and say Ivy's environmentalism or Riddler's anger over being fired tie into class conflict, but that's a stretch. Moreover, there isn't the declining society we've seen in other Batman movies. There's no need for a closer integration of a pure community. Batman is an authority figure, and I guess you could paint him not trusting Robin as believing he alone is capable of incarnating historical destiny, so screw it, it's a yellow. And I do think there is enough focus on his instincts and intelligence for that one to get a green. But Batman no longer believes in the beauty of violence. He no longer believes in the right of the chosen people to dominate others without restraint. There isn't a cult of tradition or rejection of modernism. There's no action for action's sake. Hell, he constantly tries to get Robin to reflect. Disagreement is treason, no. Fear of difference, no. Appeal to a frustrated middle class, no. Obsession with a plot, no. The enemy is both strong and weak, no. Pacifism is trafficking with the enemy, not anymore. Popular elitism could be counted, given his contempt for Robin in the 4th movie, but he gets over that pretty quickly. He educates Robin to be a hero, yes, but not out of a cult of death way. He trains Robin to ensure he is not impatient to die. Let's talk about machismo. According to Echo, fascists transfer their will to power sexual matters. Since sex is a difficult game to play, the fascist hero tends to play with weapons. Doing so becomes an Ezrat's phallic exercise. And I mean, Batman has the phallic toys, he has nipples on his costume. I think you can make an argument that this Batman transfers his will to power sexual matters. Like, there isn't the angry, repressed incel mass shooter vibes, or the condemnation of non-standard sexual habits, but I mean, look at the nipples. I think that gets it to yellow. Anyway, selective populism and Newspeak both knows, meaning this Batman wins the coveted, used to be a bit of a fascist when he was younger but became nicer award! So like it's been close to 2 hours. I'm in the mood to stop talking about Batman and go celebrate Christmas with my family. But if you let me talk for a few more minutes, I'd like to try and figure out where a discussion of fascism sits. Is Batman a fascist, and more importantly, are Batman fans fascist? Kinda? The Moore version of Batman was not fascist, nor were the animated series, 60s show, or Schumacher versions. But the Burton Batman was, if not a fascist, then a reactionary, a hero born from the same anxieties as fascism. It would not be hard to take that Batman and have him become a fascist, because art is influenced by the culture it comes from. And I think that's the thing to keep in mind. I don't think superhero movies are making people fascist. There are fascist superhero fans, I've unfortunately had to deal with a lot of them, but also, there are a lot of very deeply progressive superhero fans. I would argue that traditionally, both the creators of superhero stories and the people who consume them have, more often than not, been more left-leaning than the general populace. I mean, that's a hard thing to quantify, I know, but I don't think most Batman fans are fascists. And I think the reason that fascist Batman fans like Batman is not because Batman is fascist, but because everyone likes Batman, for the most part. He's a very popular character. Everything I've talked about, the nostalgic past of the 60s show, the urban decay of the Burton movies, the horror and campiness and male sexuality towards the Schumacher films by fans, these things are Batman movies reflecting culture, not the other way around. If Batman is a fascist, it isn't because superhero movies are infantilizing people, it's because society was already descending into fascism. Art influences us, yes, and we should be critical of the art we consume. But there is a drive among essayists like myself to pin all of societal problems on art, to look at pulp culture as the only thing that shapes people's politics and ignore much larger influences. Batman movies are not fascist because of something inherent in the character, or at least I don't think so. They are sometimes fascist, to be clear, but that's because art is a mirror for the fears and anxieties people already have. And, well, if we want to talk about fear-shaping art, there's no better place to start than the Batman movies that were made in the wake of 9/11. Next time, I'm going to talk about the Dark Knight trilogy.